The Milwaukee Bucks just beat the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals. Last night, the Bucks won Game 6. They are now NBA champions. This is the first Milwaukee Bucks title since 1971. 50 years ago was the last time and the only other time they won an NBA championship. Oddly enough, to mark the 50 years and make 50 an even weirder number here, weirder, unique, odd, crazy, I don't know, but to win and clinch the NBA title, their star Giannis scored 50 points. Pretty interesting. He won the Finals MVP, very deserving. And like Giannis, that's a whole can of worms. Giannis is the main story to me. We'll get into Giannis in a moment. I do want to shelve that for a moment. Remember, he's a guy who's won now 2 NBA League MVPs as well as now an NBA Finals MVP. And I've got a lot to say about him. But first, I want to just kind of acknowledge the skeletons in the closet. I got this series wrong, and it'd be very disingenuous to not say that and acknowledge it. Look, I predicted the Phoenix Suns would win this series, and got it wrong. Coming off the Milwaukee Bucks Atlanta Hawks series. Remember, Giannis got hurt, did not play in game 5 or 6 against Atlanta. And I thought that honestly, Milwaukee kept making mistakes and getting in their own way. And I thought, hey, going into the finals, Phoenix was a more complete team. Remember, Milwaukee had weird turnovers and bad possessions. Giannis wasn't healthy. And it's pretty wild the way things went down. It was just a roller coaster of emotion of just like, oh my gosh, Phoenix has the 2-game lead. And then, well, they lost 2 games in Milwaukee. And what's going to happen? And then when Milwaukee won game 5, I remember going like, oh my, is this really going to happen? Like, could Milwaukee win 4 games in a row? And again, I go back to, remember the moment when Phoenix had a 2-0 lead in this series. And again, remember, Giannis coming off this injury, did not play game 5 or 6 against Atlanta. And then what really surprised me is that, again, I would imagine that people who even believed Milwaukee could win this NBA title, people who were like very confident Milwaukee's going to win it, I don't think anybody, and if you were that person, great on you. I certainly was not one of the people who thought, hey, if Milwaukee wins this series after going down 0 games to 2, they're going to win 4 in a row. And just, I mean, it's pretty impressive what happened. And I remember game 2 when Giannis scored 42 points and they lost. I remember saying, hey, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, they have to step up. They have to be better. And both needed to, both did. Shout out to Drew Holiday. His defense was incredible. He got more efficient on the offensive side of the ball. Chris Middleton made a lot of shots. I mean, Chris Middleton is a very, very talented guy. I love watching the guy, and I think he's got streaky moments, but you got to give credit where credit is due. Chris Middleton delivered. Drew Holiday stepped up when he needed to. And they made some great adjustments. They won 4 games in a row. That's really impressive. And watching them do that really confirmed to me that Milwaukee just got in their own way a lot early on. I think that against weaker teams, they didn't need to play as well and as tight. And when they were forced into adversity, Milwaukee tightened up. They came together. They delivered when they needed to. And I go back to this, man. I really think that Milwaukee early on in the playoffs got in their own way, and early on in this series got in their own way. And when they needed to, again, they came together. I do wonder how much better they would have been with Dante DiVincenzo. Remember, he early on got hurt and was out, did not play really in the entire NBA playoffs. Now, 2 guys that deserve a ton of credit for this NBA championship, aside from Giannis, aside from, there's a lot of people, but 2 people that I think really deserve credit here are PJ Tucker and Drew Holiday. The defensive pressure they provided was something that Phoenix had a really, really hard time with. In game 3, Devin Booker had 10 points. He's the Suns' top scorer. He's like the guy who can create his own shot in the NBA. He had 10 points. He was 3 for 14 shooting. And I remember it felt like Devin Booker lost confidence. At the end of it, he took like 4 shots after halftime. Like, Devin Booker was not confident in his ability to score in that game. And in game 6, Devin Booker had 19 points. And watching the other team win the series, he was 8 for 22 shooting, 0 for 7 shooting threes. He had 6 turnovers. And to me, again, throughout the series, Chris Paul, the Suns' point guard, a guy who's an NBA All-Star, a legend in the NBA, had a bunch of uncharacteristic turnovers. And you have to give credit to the defensive effort of PJ Tucker and Drew Holiday for giving Devin Booker problems, for giving Chris Paul problems, for putting constant pressure on them. I mean, Drew Holiday was picking up Chris Paul and guarding him full court, just pressure, not giving them anything easy. And I look back at the moves that Milwaukee made. They traded for PJ Tucker in March. They traded for Drew Holiday in November. And those moves look genius now. The additions they made had a huge impact on them winning a championship. PJ Tucker, I was openly rooting for Phoenix. I really wanted to watch Phoenix win this series. And I had such mixed emotions. The moment I realized I wanted Phoenix to win was when I saw PJ Tucker playing intense, tough basketball, pushing Devin Booker to the ground, and it made me angry. And what's funny is when people do that, I love that. Normally, traditionally, when you get a guy like Draymond Green bullying people, playing physical, I love that. This was one of the first times in my entire life watching basketball that I didn't appreciate that side of the game. And that's when I knew, it's not because I don't appreciate what he's doing. It's because I just want a different outcome. I want Phoenix to win. I like Chris Paul. I like Devin Booker. And so I just can't give enough credit to guys like PJ Tucker and Drew Holiday for making it really frustrating for Phoenix. And they played so well on the defensive side of the ball. By the way, I am really happy for Milwaukee. It's very cool. They were able to win an NBA title at home in front of their home crowd. Good for the city. I know my buddy Tom Grossi was there last night. It's unbelievable. And I'm just happy for Bucks fans. It's really, no matter who won the series, Phoenix or Milwaukee, no matter what side you're rooting for, it's a good story either way. I mean, these are not historically great NBA teams. Milwaukee's come a long way to get here. And you can't be, I just don't know who's like outraged or angry that Milwaukee won. It's a very cool story. It's easy to root for, easy to embrace. And that leads me to the main story, in this series, which I believe is Giannis. He's a Buck superstar. They call him the Greek Freak. It's amazing. The dude grew up in Greece. He used to sell watches and DVDs and CDs as a street vendor, like literally on the street selling these items to help his family survive. And it's unbelievable how far the dude has come. I saw a video of him today ordering 50 chicken nuggets to kind of cap off the 50 Victorette, probably off a sleepless night. And he's driving a Mercedes. It's like, man, this guy's come so far from selling items on the street growing up in Greece. And I just don't really understand how anybody could hate the guy. Like, hey, I get it. If you're a Suns fan, you're probably not like, wow, awesome. I love that our team lost. But even a Suns fan has to respect what happened here. And I don't know how you look at Giannis and hate him. There's just no way. The guy who 2 weeks ago hyperextended his knee is dominating in the NBA Finals, scoring 50 points, winning the MVP. And so not only is Giannis really easy to root for, he's hard to hate on. But I also hope people do not forget that in the 2013-2014 NBA season, the Milwaukee Bucks had the worst record in the NBA. They were 15-67. It was like a 18% winning percentage. Like, really, really horrible. Whatever that is, someone can do the math there. That's terrible. I remember the numbers. Like, if it was a batting average, it was 183. It's .183. And I just, there are two people left from that 2013-2014 roster that are still on the team today in Milwaukee. That is Giannis and Chris Middleton. And Chris Middleton in his own right is a very, very cool story. He was a second-round pick who has become an all-star, an NBA champion. I mean, Chris Middleton had 40 points in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. That's a guy who was a second-round pick, kind of an afterthought in the NBA draft, who has become this amazing, incredibly dominant player. But what's cool is that Chris Middleton and Giannis built their championship team in the city they started in. And I know Chris Middleton started actually in Detroit, and then in his second year was that 2013-2014 season, he found himself in Milwaukee. But Giannis talked about it after the game in his press conference about how he said, I could have left and joined a super team. I could have won a title that way. That would have been easy. But this is the hard way. We did it this way. And there are so many NBA superstars. It's not like there's a lot of NBA superstars around the world, but there's a couple guys around the league that when they heard this quote, I'm sure hit them to their core. A guy like Donovan Mitchell who wants to win a title in Utah. And Damian Lillard in Portland, I know, heard that quote and was fired up. Damian Lillard for years, and I don't know, I hear actually trade rumors about Damian Lillard, which I don't know if I believe that or not, but I know that Damian Lillard for years has talked about how he refuses to join a super team and how he wants to win a title in Portland. And now Giannis is the guy who made that dream a reality. He actually did that, and that's very cool. That's what we're celebrating. A guy who, instead of bowing down, and it's hard to not look at the contrast between Giannis and Kevin Durant and not kind of, it's a very easy, indirect, knock against Kevin Durant, who had to move to go win a title. And I remember when there were rumors about Giannis maybe going to Golden State. And he didn't acknowledge that directly, but it's like, man, he had moments where he thought about leaving. And I'm sure he didn't want to do that. He wanted to win in Milwaukee. He made that happen. He built something very, very cool in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, winning a championship there. And so you have to give credit to Milwaukee. It's a very cool story. Giannis is awesome. And I asked the question, like, how can anybody hate this guy? A guy who grew up selling CDs on the street in Greece, who's now on top of the NBA world. That's a very, very cool story. Now, the next question you have to ask is, what is next for the Phoenix Suns? Because, will Phoenix be back? Jay Crowder's coming back next year. And aside from Jay Crowder and Chris Paul, this is a very, very young Phoenix Suns team. Devin Booker is only 24. Mikal Bridges is 24. DeAndre Ayton is 22. Cam Johnson, who is a really, really young, blossoming role player, is going into year 3 next year. You can assume that Cam Johnson will be even better next year. He had a massive dunk on PJ Tucker earlier in the finals. He had a crazy block. Like, Cam Johnson is a very, very quality role player, like a kind of getting into that sixth-man conversation. And Cameron Payne is a former lottery pick he's a good role player. And the only big question really in Phoenix is what's going to happen with Chris Paul. He's 36. There's no way that Chris Paul retires next year. It just seems impossible. Like, people are like, is he going to retire? I'm like, no. The guy has too much money on the table and too much opportunity to win basketball games to walk away from the next opportunity he has in this upcoming NBA season. Now, the rumor is that Chris Paul, CP3, is looking for a really, really big contract. I've heard the number $100 million thrown around, and he does have a player option if he wants it to make like $44 million. And so, look, Chris Paul has earned a massive amount of money. That's clear. Like, what he did this last year, it deserves respect, deserves monetary compensation. Like, I acknowledge all of that. And if Chris Paul wants to go get a bucket load of money, he can. But I've also read that he's earned over $250 million in his NBA career. And so it's a weird conversation here. I don't like talking about another man's money necessarily, but what I would like to see from Chris Paul is to say, hey, I've made so much money in my NBA career. I want to see Chris Paul pull a Tom Brady and maybe put winning ahead of money for his whole career. We've actually, so many times I've heard Chris Paul compared to Tom Brady. And the one thing Tom Brady has always done is said, I want to win championships, and put that at the forefront of every decision he made with his career. And it'll be interesting. Does Chris Paul do that? I don't know. But I'm really the same way I'm really excited to see what happens with Ben Simmons. Where's he going to go? Who's going to trade for him? Like, what's going to happen with Ben Simmons in Philadelphia? I'm also wondering what will happen with Chris Paul's contract situation this offseason. Now, real quick, I want to give a shout out to the Suns head coach, Monty Williams. He went to the Bucks locker room and congratulated them in person, which takes a lot of, man, that's a tough thing to do. You lose an NBA championship and you go to the other team's locker room to congratulate them. And that almost feels like something you really don't see. You see that in like Little League Baseball, and like when another team wins a tournament, occasionally the coach go walk over and congratulate the other team. But here's what Monty Williams said in the Bucks locker room after the game. And remember, the opposing team's locker room, as they are wearing goggles and there was tarps everywhere because they're about to shoot champagne everywhere. He said, I want to come and congratulate you guys as a man and as a coach. You guys deserved it, and I'm thankful for the experience. You guys made me a better coach, and you guys made us a better team. That is Monty Williams talking to the opposing team in their locker room after losing an NBA title. That's so classy, man. That makes me love Monty Williams even more. And, man, I just wonder what's going to happen with Phoenix next year. Other teams are going to be even better, I would imagine. I mean, there's just a lot. The NBA West is up for grabs like every year. And I would love to see Phoenix come back. I'd love to see Monty Williams win a title with this team. I'd love to see Devin Booker do well. I'd love to see Chris Paul get a title. And I just wonder, like, what's going to happen? What is the future of the Phoenix Suns moving forward? Will they be back? But, of course, the story is Giannis. And for for years now, I remember saying, like, can this be the year that Giannis can carry his team to an NBA title? He had help, but you watch him score 50 points in that last Game 6, and you're like, it's just ridiculous. And I remember almost every year when I do like an NBA preview or talk about my thoughts on the NBA, I go like, can this be the year Giannis can push through and go from being just a great player to actually winning a title? And this is the year he did it. He did it in his home city. And I am so at home, meaning like the place where he built his career. And I'm so happy for Giannis. I'm happy for Milwaukee. Congratulations to them. The Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions.